Welcome to Wetpixel Live. My name's Adam Hanlon. I'm the editor of Wetpixel, and I'd like to introduce the owner of Nauticam, Mr. Edward Lai. Hello, Edward. Welcome back.
Good morning. Nice to
Good morning.
again.
Nice to see you again too. I thought if we could we do a sort of roundup of some of the newer Nauticam products that have come out recently, which is some very exciting new products. So I think we should try and talk about them quite specifically. And my first question to you, but obviously it's a little bit old news now, but you introduced a range of new viewfinders, and I thought it would be interesting to try and discover what's new about the new viewfinders. And there are several different models to try and figure out how they work. So I guess first of all, what's the difference between the older viewfinders? I have one; it's a wonderful viewfinder, and the newer viewfinders, please.
Okay. The problem came when the mirrorless camera companies start to make the internal image bigger and bigger. For example, some of the big Sony brothers, they have an internal angle of view of 40 degrees. I mean,
Right.
when you stick your eye to the viewfinder, the internal screen has got a 40-degree view angle. So it's quite big.
Yeah.
And the original viewfinder that we have been making for the last 10 years actually only has got a view angle of 32 degrees. So we saw that there is a need that we address the problem. And also because my experience in optical design also become more mature, I think that maybe I can redesign the whole chain of lenses that from the viewfinder. So I went to the software. I set up all my requirement and then allow it to use new lenses. And eventually I was able to create a viewfinder that actually is a bit brighter and with almost no distortion and is much sharper throughout the whole area. So I was quite happy. But in order to tackle the problem, I have to increase the angle of view that go into the housing that sees it onto the internal screen. So I increased that to 40 degrees.
Right.
But on the other end, the end that shoot the image onto the diver's eye.
Yeah.
There's a certain constraint about what kind of angle I want to use.
Yeah.
In my old product, actually, it is a 1-to-1. That means the inside angle was 32 degree, and then the one that project the image to the diver's eye was also 32 degree.
Right.
And if I want to increase that, the whole viewfinder will become much bigger and heavier and more expensive. So I decided I kept that 32 degree view angle with a very, very nice eye relief.
Yeah.
And if I have to capture the 40 degree image of the camera, then I have to give a little bit the magnification. So I keep a 32 degree for the eyepiece, and I use a 40 degree of angle of view for the objective lens. That means it is like 0.8 magnification. That's why we put that on the viewfinder. It is a 40 degree view angle inside, and it gives you a 0.8 magnification for your eye. And that is for the cameras. But still, there are people they're using it for cameras with a smaller internal monitor, and I also make the 1-to-1 product for them, and that is the 32 degrees 1-to-1.
Yeah. So the mirrorless version, or the 0.8 version, is designed because the EVFs in the Sony cameras is basically a wider EVF than it is. That makes sense. And then obviously to get it onto the eye, you still need to keep 30. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But you say optically they're superior to Edward because you've got better at what you're at designing them. Yeah. Okay.
If you have two versions of viewfinders and you stick it on the same housing and camera, you can readily see the difference.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's the 10 or 11 years of knowledge for me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, that's great. That explains it perfectly. Actually, I think that there was a bit of confusion as to what the difference was, and now everyone can see exactly what that is. So that's wonderful. And they're not
well ready for this question. I just try to from my memory.
You're doing very well, Edward. Your memory is very good. It's better than mine. And then obviously the big new product, it's big in terms of size, I suppose, as well as everything else, is the new version of WACP. So obviously the question is, we have 3 WACPs now. Maybe I should list them. We've got WACP1, which was the original one, and we've got WACP2, which is a much bigger version, primarily designed for newer lenses. And we now have WACP-C, and I think C stands for compact. Am I right in saying that, Edward? Okay.
Compact, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why 3 versions? Why do we now have WACP-C?
Okay. I remember last time I was having a short story about my conversation with Alex Master. We were exchanging our idea about what kind of standard we want to create for the first conversion lens that we want to deliver to the market.
Yeah.
So I make the first prototype. I saw it. I sent it to Alex. He saw it, and then we both think that it is okay. It is good. It can surprise people when we use f-stop around f8.
Yeah.
But perhaps that's not enough.
Yeah.
If we can make it better, maybe that can give a good comparison to the market against the dumper. So I went back to my software. I designed a lens which is, as I said, longer, bigger, heavier, and more expensive. And at the end, we decided that must be our first version of the lens that can represent the difference, that can represent the quality people can get from conversion port. So we decided to make that, and we call it the WACP1.
Yep.
And after that, people complain. I cannot use my pro lens. I don't want to use a kit lens. I have this blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, so I use WACP1 with an old Nikon 2870 f3.5, f3.5 to 4.5, I think, and it's a very old lens. I bought it for the job, and I think I paid £100 for it. I can't remember. It was very cheap. It works brilliantly, but it is an old lens. There's no doubt about it.
We'll come back to that later.
Yeah, okay.
So after the WACP1, I tried to create a lens that cater for the modern wide-angle lenses.
Yeah.
At that time, Nikon has 14 to 30. Canon has a 15 to 35 ready to ship. Actually, I designed my lens before they ship those lenses. I always check what they are going to announce, and I make my lens ready. Even before they ship the lens. So I make the lens even bigger, and actually front element is same as a 230 dome port. So the first element is actually a 230 dome port. I don't want to make anything bigger than that. That is my limit. But still, it is quite heavy. It's quite expensive, but it is optically really, really superior. You can always shoot f4 or f2 with it. is good. And also, I addressed another problem that it is easier to focus on NAND. I can't say it is perfect on NAND, but it can focus easier on NAND.
Yeah.
Because after all my experience, I know that I can let the lens actually that is on the camera focus a little bit farther away, which is like the infinity.
Yeah.
For the WWL and the WCP1, I always want to make sure that you can shoot wide-angle close-up pictures with the lens. So I always make sure that I use the close-up range of the inside lens more to make sure that you can shoot any subject that is almost touching the
very close. Yeah.
Very close. But after some cycles of design, I know that I can achieve that if I allow the lens to use the farther range of the focus. So for the WCP2, I actually took some risk of designing that to couple with a lens that use the farther end of the focus range, and that make it possible to focus on NAND to distant subjects. I know that sometimes maybe people still can't focus onto infinity on NAND, but something like 2 or 3 meters away, it is no problem. It's okay. And even when you are shooting a split image, the point of interest is underwater. It's not above water. So if you can focus nicely underwater and then the above water is acceptably in focus, that's okay.
Great. So WACP1 and WWL, all of them won't focus in air. WACP2 will focus in air. And WACP is primarily designed to cope with more modern wide-angle zoom lenses. Is that a reasonable way of describing it?
Yeah, the WACP2 for the modern lenses.
So WACP-C, what does that do then?
We received some feedback from the market about can we have a lens that is less expensive, that's lighter, that's smaller, easier for travel, although optically may not be as good as the WCP1. For example, it can be 1 or 2 stop less brilliant. I mean, if the WCP1 can shoot a really nice picture at f5.6, people don't mind if I have to use another lens, lighter, cheaper, and I have to use f8. And actually, when I receive more and more inquiry like that, suddenly I realized that I already have that. That was the first prototype
one that Alex
must have. Actually, he still has one with him. And I know that sometimes for certain trips, he when he doesn't want to carry the big one, he carries the small one. And the difference is it's not big. It is like one stop difference. That means when you shoot at f8, it is as good as shooting the WCP1 at f5.6.
So essentially, what we've got is how is it in terms of distortion, in terms of field of view? What are the when you compare it with, perhaps compare it to WACP1, please, Edward. So field of view for the WACP-C is?
It's just the same. It's also 140 degree. With 28 mm equivalent lens.
And distortion, what's the distortion like on it?
It is more or less the same.
More or less the same. Okay. So essentially, optically, you're getting a similar looking image from what you get WACP 1. But we've so essentially we're going to need to add a stop back in, I suppose. And if you do shoot at f5.6, what would be the difference between, in terms of your image, in terms of shooting a WACP-C at 5.6 or shooting WACP-1 at f5.6?
It's just that the corners a little bit are not so solid.
Okay.
The center is still as good.
Yeah.
But in those days when we're trying to develop these wide angle solutions, we always look at the corners. Every time we have a picture, we always look at the corners.
Yeah.
So the corners are a little bit worse than the WACP-1.
And it's a point you made. It's a point you made in our previous conversation, which I think is very relevant, is that, it's not just the corners. There's also WCP gives sharpness across the image by reducing diffraction, by reducing color fringing, all those kinds of things. So the center of the frame of WCP, any of them will always look better than the center of the frame of an equivalent dome anyway. So yeah, okay. So how about lens compatibility, Edward? What lenses? You mentioned 28mm equivalent. So are there any specific lenses you recommend for using with WACP-C, or is it just that?
The last element of the WACP-C is a bit smaller than the WACP-1. So some of the larger lenses that people can use on the WACP-1 cannot be used on the WACP-C. So I don't remember all those.
Sure.
There's some lens chart on our website.
Of course,
I think it can support all the lenses that we use to support with the bigger
WCP. Yeah.
So you can see the difference in size.
Yeah, significant, isn't it? Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, it's difficult. But yeah, no, massively different size. And it's obviously am I right in saying it's an N100 bayonet as opposed to the N120? Is that correct?
Yes or no? Actually, we always ship the WACP-1 like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to show people what is the raw lens like inside. So sometimes in some exhibition, I take away
take it off. The
gold collar, because actually the lens mount of the WACP-1 is actually N100.
Right. Okay. It's the adapter. An adapter.
There's an adapter inside that change the 100 to 120. And in the future, we will have another adapter that people can swap with us to change this to N100.
Yeah.
So if you have a Sony housing, you don't want to use a 100 to 120 adapter, you can ask to change this to 100, and then we have the strict N100 system for you. Because it's very easy to swap. It's like 5 or 10 minutes to swap the adapter. Mm-hmm.
I think this is the important thing here, isn't it? In that a lot of the mirrorless housings, not all your mirrorless housings now are N100, aren't they? So the Sony mirrorless housings are all the smaller throated port. So essentially the N100 system is probably going to become more prevalent, I suppose. But that does mean obviously that those bigger throated lenses aren't going to fit. So those you have to stick with an N120, aren't you? So yeah, it makes sense.
When you change the port mount of the WACP-1 to N100, actually you can always directly swap between the two lenses. Yeah. Because the depth are the same. Yeah. So if you have the same housing, same extension ring, you can always compare the two lenses.
Yeah. Swap between the two. Perfect. That's very good. Excellent. Mm-hmm. So fascinating, and obviously, so it's significantly smaller, significantly lighter. and because it's smaller and lighter, there's less glass in it, so therefore it's a bit less expensive. So that's a great option. So I'm sure that'll be wonderful for traveling photographers. Yeah.
Yeah. Just that one-stop difference.
Yeah.
So
yeah. One something different.
For example, when you went to Mexico, you shop in this big cave and you use f4. And in that case, I really recommend the bigger WCP one.
And I'd actually like to shoot WACP2 in there, because I think that would be, and it's a kind of environment where actually you could get away with it, because it's not like I'm dealing with currents and things. It's I can be careful, I can take my time, I can get in there and do it, and I think it would be a great tool for that. Just as limited amount of distortion as possible, I suppose.
Okay,
but certainly,
let us make a deal. When you go to Mexico again, I try to arrange the base CPU for you to try to test and find out the difference.
I would love that, Edward. That would be wonderful. Thank you. I shall look forward to doing that very much. That would be great. Yeah, no, it'd be good. But there's no doubt WCP1 that I was using, and I used it with both my D850 and with Natalie Gibbs from Under the Jungle, her A7S3. And it's in those environments, it's a game-changing tool. It's amazing. I mean, you're just capturing images that well, they're not impossible to capture, but they're very, very hard to capture with the conventional situation. And you can shoot wide open, push the ISO as far as it will go, slow the shutter speed down, of course, and before you know it, you're lighting up these amazing caves. So it's wonderful.
And the CPU is 10 degrees more.
Yeah, I know. Right? Well, it'd be very, very exciting. I would really, really love to try it. We'll have to try. It would be a really fascinating thing, because I would think to take both and shoot. In fact, Natalie's got one there, so we could shoot, compare the images. It'd be a really good thing to do. Wonderful. And
last time I was saying that maybe I tried to explain a little bit about the difference between pole lens and kit. My point of view is that the kit lenses are much cheaper. Not that because they are not good. They are so much cheaper because the manufacturers are able to make them in huge numbers. Because they're almost giving out one with the camera, so they are making it in tens of thousands. Versus hundreds or thousand lenses. So they can keep the lens much more economical. And for those expensive pole lenses, they try to correct for example, the corner performance, the camera distortion, there's a certain curvature distortion, which is for me not that important for underwater usage. And then for all the extra money you have to invest on those lenses, actually the return is quite diminished. Because for another 1 or 2,000 extra money, you just get very, very little return. And sometimes those extra quality, you only get it when you are shooting fully open. And sometimes because of depth of field, we can't always shoot fully open underwater. So for me, that extra money and that extra size and weight is not that essential.
And I know I've chatted to Nikon about this, and Nikon, obviously, the Z mount flange is a much wider, bigger flange, and the idea is they can now fit bigger optics. So basically, they can attach lenses with bigger elements to it, which gives them options. And they're 1.4s, 1.1s, which is great if I'm a low light wildlife photographer or a low light landscape photographer. that I can see absolutely. But for us underwater, that doesn't really hold any advantages. It's because we're never going to manage to keep those corners in focus because of the depth of field. So it's almost like in this instance, it from a design point of view, it makes a lot of sense to me to have that big flange. I see exactly where they're going with it, but actually for underwater, it doesn't really give us a huge amount of benefit at the moment. I mean, this may change, but
actually, sometimes a very small lens can be quite good. For example, the new Sony 38 to 60.
Yeah,
it's a very small lens.
Yeah,
and people are quite astonished that the performance of lenses is quite good. And it is so small that we find that we can also use the WWL with it as a lens because the front element is just so small.
Yeah. And I mean, so this is it. I mean, their advantage to small, as you say, so it's not big, fast, expensive lenses don't necessarily translate to a massively improved quality underwater. And so the other product that I know, and I don't think it's in general release now, so this may come as a surprise to somebody, but those of you that watch my photography and maybe a few know that I've been very happy using EMWL, the extended macro wide lens. And it's an amazing tool for producing some very unique, particularly close focus wide angle imagery. And I think one of the things that I felt about the existing objective, so it has a series of objectives you can fit in the front, which is currently 60 degrees, 100 degrees, 130 degrees. And I've always felt the 130 degrees is not quite wide enough. It doesn't quite, I don't quite get that sense. And I believe that you have a new product coming out that's going to address my concerns about that.
I almost forget about that. Actually, I have one sample here.
Ah, there it is. 160. Yes.
Yeah. The problem is that we have built a small number of prototypes. And to be honest, I don't know whether we want to go into mass production because it is going to be very expensive. We are going to offer to send to some testers test it and gather some information before we want to make it because it's going to be very expensive. There are two aspheric elements inside.
Wow.
So in order to achieve this angle, I took more than 1 year designing it.
Wow.
Must have go through hundreds of millions of optimization in order to get that. Something like 50, 60 different designs in order to get one that really I accept. So a lot of work on it. Yeah.
It'll be fascinating. It'll be fascinating to shoot, and I think, to me, I think certainly with EMWL having that sort of quite exaggerated fisheye perspective with EMWL is a really, really unique looking image, and I'm very excited at the idea of being able to shoot like that again. Of course, when you say very expensive, I don't know what it is. Very expensive may mean, but I'm sure that when people know that this is happening, I think there'll be quite a high demand for it, I would guess.
One bonus for you, surprise.
Surprise.
Let me see whether you can see it.
Look at that. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, so, wow, for shooting.
A relay lens that is 45 degrees.
That's fantastic. God, that's going to be...
You can shoot at very low angle.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at that. Mm-hmm. That's going to take a bit of getting used to. But once you get used to it, it'll be fine. Yeah.
It's just like the first time you use a 45 degree.
Absolutely. Yeah. But actually, this is one of the things that, I think will be really, really, because being able to get right down onto the seabed and being able to keep that upward angle on stuff, I think it will be absolutely amazing, Edward. Yeah, fantastic.
Very low angle with it.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Wow. That's very exciting. Is that scheduled to definitely happen, Edward, or are you teasing me?
It's done. It's
Oh,
finished.
okay. Oh well,
Uh,
I can see my credit card's going to be in trouble again then. Fantastic.
I really enjoy doing that. I always my problem is that I haven't been diving for almost 3 years, and I
Yeah,
really look forward that I can go diving. I always have that particular picture I want to take.
yeah,
It's like no angle, stick to the sand with a sunball behind a
yeah,
more subject. That is,
yeah, yeah.
that is the idea that I developed is actually
Cool.
it is just
It's. I mean, that's a definite kind of classic close focus wide angle. Yeah,
freelance. So
yeah,
you just swap out the strict. This is the objective,
yeah, yeah,
and this is the focus unit. So you just
yeah,
change the
yeah,
relay lens.
yeah. And that
Yeah.
inverts the image like the real lens does. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
fantastic. That's a great surprise, Edward. What a fantastic looking piece of equipment. I can't wait to try that underwater. That'll be really productive.
Yeah. Because I was kept in China for the last 2.5 years, so I I just keep working on
Well,
all kinds of funny products.
I think there's a couple of things, Edward. You and I definitely need to go diving somewhere soon. We need to make a plan. So as the world gradually gets itself right, and I get my health back, not that it's wrong, but then we'll have to make sure that we meet up somewhere and go and do some diving together.
Our
I
last
shall,
gathering was really interesting.
yeah, I shall look forward to that very much. It's always good to hang out with you. Um, thank you so much for your time. You're a very busy man, so we really appreciate it. The products look wonderful. I'm sure the Wetpixel audience will have lots of questions about them, which I'll relay on to you. So thank you very much, Edward. And thank you very much to everyone for watching. Please add any comments, questions into the forum, into the comment section on here, and drop us a like if you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you again soon.